Hey everyone, this is AWS OnAir. I'm your co-host, Jeff Maruschek, a senior solutions architect with AWS. My co-host, Todd.
Hey everybody, I'm Todd Fortier. I'm a senior solutions architect here at AWS, focused on the AWS Solutions Library. Welcome back. And let's welcome to the studio, Varsha. Varsha, welcome.
Hey, Todd, Jeff. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so a lot of my customers have been talking about everyone seems to have a data set. This group has a data set. There is this data set that has this one piece of information, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know data is growing exponentially. So that's kind of where Amazon DataZone comes in. So Varsha, can you give us a little bit, just what is Amazon DataZone? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think I'll just briefly introduce myself so folks know
I apologize.
who I am.
Yes, I apologize.
Let's start. I'm a product manager with Amazon DataZone. I am on the West Coast, so I am going to miss the eclipse as well. And yeah, I've been with AWS for about 6 years, and yeah, loving every bit of it. So yeah, with that, I think we'll go into DataZone, and it's
cool. I apologize, but thank you for joining us today and fill us in on DataZone.
Thank you. Organizations, they have a lot of data available. They want to make it available for their business analytics and answering the business questions, right? And you have these data across different sources, different tools, and you have siloed in different teams, right? So there's a challenge for data discovery and understanding the data. And then once you have discovered the data, getting access is painful. Once you have access, using it in the tool of choice is another challenge. So Amazon DataZone actually is a data management and data governance product. It helps with the end-to-end flow. We have a business data catalog, which helps you catalog your data, add business context to it, and then consumers, when they find it, they can request access through a business workflow. Once they get access, they're easily able to use it in their tool as well for analytics.
Yeah, can you give us some examples of maybe someone needing another piece of data or another data set where this would be applicable? Something kind of put it in perspective for our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's multiple use cases, right? You have your business analysts, you have your data scientists, data engineers. They may have use cases, like if I use an example of maybe a retail industry, and you have to do some analytics on your vendors, right? You want to compare what how they're performing. You want to analyze their delivery times. Analytics on that. So you want to use the data you have available, different data sets, and combine them, and perform an analytics use case. You could separately, you could have a customer campaign you want to run as a marketing analyst. You want to understand which users you want to reach out to, right, as an email campaign or other forms of marketing. So yeah, you want to then find the data sets that are relevant. You might have the data sets in a different team, like sales team might have some data sets. Your shipping or the actual product fulfillment might have some other data sets. So you want to find the relevant information across teams, and then use it for your particular business use case.
So
go ahead, Tom.
Well, I'm curious to see if to know if any of our audience members have used DataZone. If so, what have they used it for? What have they liked about it? Go ahead and put it in the chat and let us know how familiar you are. So my understanding of DataZone, and I haven't had a ton of experience with it. There's so many services and so many new things all the time at AWS. And so I've briefly have been able to get hands-on with DataZone. So my understanding is that, if I'm part of a team, a larger organization, and I'm part of a team, and I've produced a data set, I can register that data set with DataZone. I can apply governance on who can see that data set. I can describe what that is. And then folks within my organization can come in and subscribe to that data set, and provided that they conform to the governance requirements that I've set, they can get updates so they access that data. What are some of the, what are some of the governance rules that bake in? Does it remove PHI or PII? Do we have what are some of the other features of DataZone that folks might not normally know about?
Yeah, so customers can actually add their glossary information. They can add their classification information in the to annotate their data sets. They can set the subscription approval if they need approval or not. Right? You have some organizations which have 80% of their data sets. They want to make it available. They don't want to like hinder or have like an explicit approval. So you have these settings to make them auto approve as well to make it easy. But yeah, those are
So do I access DataZone from the AWS console, or is it something I launch in my account? How do customers get hands-on with DataZone?
yeah. So Amazon Data Zone, it has its own data portal. It's an out of console experience, so you can log in with your enterprise credentials, and you're able to then search for your data and yeah, and request access to it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so a little bit different than if you're familiar with the AWS console. That is where, for the most part, customers have an account, they log into a console, and they can get access to all of AWS's services. But you're saying in this instance, this is a separate experience from that, and then they would enable that, launch that, and log into that, and it's really easy for them to connect to their whatever identity provider they might use in their organization, and then grant access that way.
That's
Okay,
right. Yes.
so
And it also you can connect like your data across accounts, regions, right? You're able to publish it all in the same um, application.
Okay, so data I have in my AWS account, I can very easily get it into DataZone. There's all those integrations are baked into DataZone.
Yeah, we have integrations with the Glue Data Catalog and Redshift, so you can easily publish the data from there.
Okay, cool. So there's some new stuff going on in DataZone that you're here to show us, and give us some context here. What are we getting ready to see? I understand you have a demo. We're going to share your screen. Help us out?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were talking to customers about the pain points that they have with data discovery, one of the key problems they've stated is they don't usually have enough curation, enough information in the data sets. So discovery of data sets is really difficult. And secondly, they don't easily understand what to use, which data sets are applicable where. And all of this is really time consuming. So most often they only have like the technical data sets with cryptic technical names. And so
Mhm.
we're introducing a feature. We've introduced a feature. It's called AI recommendations for descriptions. The idea is, given your technical metadata on your assets, we generate the descriptions for your columns, for your assets, highlighting the key column information as well as possible use cases for it. And I'm going to show a live demo of it. I think it'll come alive with the actual example.
Yeah, full disclosure, I got a bit of a sneak peek at this demo, and it is really incredible how easy this new feature really is. Jeff, you were about to say something. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Varsha, when I talk to customers and we kind of talk about data governance, there's the idea of data producers and data consumers we've been talking about, but then it's making your data as a product. So following the rules of the data catalog and labeling it appropriately and doing everything you just mentioned. It sounds easy, it's easy to say, oh yeah, just label your data, make it a product. And there's a lot that goes into it. And it sounds like this new feature is just going to help the data producers label all their data so everyone else can find it who needs to find it.
That's right. One of the customers we spoke to was really emotional about it, and they were saying how they had to spend hours and hours backfilling because some of the key folks, left the team, and they had multiple sets of data items, and they just didn't know like what to do or what is it about, and so these are challenges I'm sure our audience also faces. I don't know if anyone has faced this, if they want to chime in. But yeah, that's what
Yeah,
we've
that's what I want to know. I want to know in the comments from our audience, what is the part about your job that you wish you could automate with a click of a button? Because I know everybody's got something. There's always some report or some end of the month report. I was a software developer for a long time. I was a consultant, and the administrative side of the house, I always had to like log hours and write status reports and I
The
was like,
TPS
oh,
reports.
this TPS reports. Yeah, I was like, oh, it was the worst part. I loved the creation side of it and the data side of it and all the stuff that we were like programming. But then when it came to that content, I was like, where's the button? I think my developer years are starting to wind down. I'm starting to and I think the new generation's going to have a lot more. I'm going to be that old guy, that sits like, when I was programming back in the day, we had to Google stuff. Yeah, I'm curious. I want to hear from the audience. Like, what's that part of the job that you look forward to automating in some way?
And Varsha, you bring up a great point. I was thinking like kind of greenfield as you're starting your data governance journey, starting with something like this to help you. But I can imagine folks being thrown into 20 years of data sets that have no labels. And you mentioned kind of odd column names, odd table names that no one has a clue what they are, because a lot of those folks might be gone from the corporation. So I'm thinking about like a new data steward who gets assigned and is in charge of resetting up this whole data governance for a corporation could really use this new feature.
Yeah, absolutely. And if this tool was available back then, they could have used it and very easily documented everything.
Right,
So
right. So
we've got a few people chiming in. Someone is saying, I want to Adam, not focused. I was thinking of training an AI LLM on my own machine, so to sit in for meetings for me. Yeah, I think that's coming. That's happening. There's some stuff that might be available right now. But Varsha, I understand. So you've got a demo. We've got a screen. Should we bring it up? And I think we've set it up. All right.
Cool. So yeah, I think what you're seeing is a user has logged into the DataZone data portal. I think I could use the earlier example that I was giving. I am a data analyst. I want to do some vendor analytics, right? I'm looking for some available information on our vendors.
How about more importantly, you're a new hire and you're not really sure where to look yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would start with the the business data catalog I have, and I'm going to search in vendor information, right? And the results, like without the curation, like all you see is something about some trip data, so it's not relevant. Then I'm going to say, I know the retail team has the vendor information, so I'm going to say maybe it's under retail, right? And then I see all of these things, right? All of these other tables. And then there's VD payment, VD details. Like what is this? Right? I wouldn't, like, as a consumer, I wouldn't think any of this is relevant.
Yeah, there's no description. I see some metadata, but that's not
right. So there's some technical, like, okay, there's some information. Let me look at this. No, I don't think this is vendor information, right? That's what I would think. Now with DataZone's AI capabilities, I think I can show you a different view, right? As a data publisher, I could have gone in. I could have used the business name generation to firstly, auto-generate all of the names, including the asset name, including the schema names. VD is actually vendor, right? Vendor information, and you have the exact like the vendor activation date and status and things like that. So add the name context. With this new feature, actually, I could go into my asset, and you see that button right there, generate descriptions.
Yeah.
I can just click that, right? So I'm just going to click it, right? And that will generate the descriptions. Let me pull up something that's already done while that's running. Just takes a minute. This is a very similar table, another layer of information on the vendors. So this table, I just ran the descriptions, generate descriptions feature, and it actually generated a summary of the table. So it talks about what information it has. It highlights some of the key columns. The amount payable is probably relevant. The currency code, and then also in addition highlight some of the possible use cases for this data set, right? Oftentimes you see that consumers don't know whether it's applicable and what can they really use. So this is actually prompting them. If you are a logistics manager, you could use this for understanding some of your or optimizing some of your routes and transportations in regards to your vendor, right? If you're part of the finance team, you could reconcile with the vendor invoices and payments, and aggregate all of that information, right? Similarly, other it actually even highlights the specific use cases that you could do. You could build a dashboard for the shipment visibility, operational transactions, and so on. So this is the information on the overall asset. In addition, it also does
And
the
Varsha, that last summarization, that was typically the responsibility of the data producer. Someone would have had to have write that from scratch, and this was generated right away.
That's exactly right. Within a minute, right? You just saw that other one come in as well.
Yeah, that was
And
that notification that said that some summarization had succeeded, I think.
yeah, that's right. And this is like a starting point. Like, you already have the key content available. Now you can make the edits, you can customize it, and just hit publish, and then it's available for your consumers.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it also does the column descriptions, right? That's also really important for in terms of this discovery aspect. So
What's interesting is that it seems that over the years that was like the company's kind of proprietary knowledge. Like, you had to have been like the DBA for so many years to know what VDID meant on this specific table, et cetera, et cetera. And you would just learn that stuff. And that was part of the experience, which is not really like memorizing all that stuff, how your company has named things over the years. That's not the valuable portion of this. And being able to just skip that and have it summarized and someone being able to read it right away is just going to help people along all that quicker.
yeah, exactly. And imagine the time that someone has to spend, right? If they
Yeah.
had like 20 or 30, 50 columns, like going through everything and, then summarizing all of the information available in that table.
Yeah.
It's just really painful. So,
Yeah, we've got a few comments in the chat that this is amazing. I totally agree. Like, honestly, when I first saw this, it happened so fast that I missed I was like, wait, how did that happen? And she's like, and Varsha was like, I just clicked this button. I'm like, you just clicked that button and all of this was done. It happened that fast. And I felt like when I was developing, it was almost like a game who could be the most cryptic sometimes. Like, I walk into a new customer, and I'd be like, what are all these table names? And then they'd get into weird conventions and people would have different opinions about what those conventions should be. And it was always hard. But to have this laid out in plain English, what this is, what it does, I think you were just getting ready to show us the schema too. Like, looks like it did the same thing for the schema.
yeah, it did. It details out the information, right?
So not only do we have like a human readable title for the column, we now know a little bit more about what it is and what the data type is, and in plain English, have all of this done with a click of a button.
That's right.
Yeah, and Varsha, I liked your point that this is a starting point. So instead of having to write all this, you can now read it and make edits, because it might not be 100% accurate, or at least it's a great starting point to double check things. It's a lot easier to check things versus writing it all from scratch.
Hey Varsha, I see a lot of notifications. What in that asset details? It's telling me data asset contains automatically generated metadata.
Yeah.
Is that
So we do have the safety mechanisms, right? You don't want to just make that available without review. So we do generate it and provide it for the producer, so the producer can review it and make sure everything looks good, and then they can accept.
okay? So we
So
still
for
need a human in the loop to say, "Yep, this is good. Go ahead and publish this," and
That's right.
it's not just kind of doing anything without your consent.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we have those checks in place. And so for this one, I've looked through everything. It looks good, right? My previous available metadata was also used for the generation. And then I'm going to accept all. And publish it for the catalog consumers to find and discover. So now when I go into my search, like if I do a vendor search as a consumer, right? Type in vendor. Actually, this one it just auto selected, but you can just view all of the results. It actually shows me a table that has the vendor information. So yeah, that's really the feature.
Handy. So we've got a question from the chat. Will the edits train the description, or is it pre-trained and not trained on the data entered? Does the edits go back to train?
Yeah, right. So what we use to do the metadata generation is all of the available metadata, and it's a pass-through, and we just get the descriptions. We
Okay.
don't use any of the metadata for training purposes. It's used for like the existing run through. It takes all of the available metadata. So if you edit information and again run the thing, so you could reuse that content for new generation. It's not training any model, right? It's just it's a pass through.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Another call out is it is using just the metadata, right? It's not touching your data. So none of that is being passed to is being used. We're only using all of the available metadata. So if you wanted to enrich it, you could add in some more like custom information that you want it used.
Oh, I think that's a really important point, right? So the data that is in the catalog is not being used to generate this, but it's solely the metadata, which offers a clear line of security between the data that's being hosted in the metadata. I think it's a really important point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Varsha, this is like I mean, it's so simple. It's like where do you go from here? Like you click a button, you make some like I don't know, like what else have we got with this? Is there anything else you want to show us with this particular feature?
So the other thing is, I showed you the data portal feature. We do have APIs available. So if you wanted to generate, multiple assets together, you could use the APIs to script, and then you can do the human review of the content and approve it. Right? So
Gotcha.
that's available too.
Yeah, I think we have another question from Pandemonic. Can we bring that up? Can I regenerate the data descriptions, and how can I somehow adjust the format of the generated summary, like add mandatory topics that must be in the summary, et cetera, et cetera?
Right. So firstly, you could use APIs to regenerate and modify and regenerate, right? For adjusting, you could edit the content, or if you wanted to enrich it with your own examples, you could add the content into README or the metadata form content, and it will use that for generating the descriptions.
Gotcha. Cool.
Oh,
So let's talk about pricing. How does that work with this?
Yeah, so I think pricing basically is based on the input and output tokens. So all of the input metadata available is used as the input tokens, and the content generated is measured as the output tokens. And pricing dimensions are these two, and the pricing information is available on our DataZone pricing page.
Sounds good.
Yeah, cool. Wow. I was kind of had a thought like, so almost the README can be considered almost like a way to prompt the LLM in a way. The more context you add there, the different output you're going to get in the summary.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Is it actually adding context, that README file, sort of almost like retrieval augmented generation, almost?
Yeah, that's right. So
Perfect.
you could add in your tidbits of information. You could add a sample of the data. You could use that for that purpose, for more context.
Perfect.
Very cool. So Varsha, I understand that this is just one of many new things that DataZone is working on. Are there any other updates or things that you want to touch on before we close out the segment?
Yeah, so we have actually recently launched a couple of new features this week. We have data quality now, data quality visualization. It's enabled. If you look at this asset, I'm able to view the data quality visualization that's integrated with Glue Data Quality. If you're already using Glue Data Quality, you can also use APIs to bring in your data quality scores from other tools. We also launched more simple onboarding for your tables for access management using lake formation hybrid mode. So that reduces the setup that's needed. You can very easily now make them managed assets where we are managing your grants for glue tables. So that's also another thing we launched this week.
Okay, cool. Like, so if our audience wanted to learn more about some of these new features, where would they go to learn more?
Yeah, I think we should share the link. We do have a What's New page for Amazon DataZone, and separately, of course, AWS What's New is always a good source for that.
Cool. Well, thanks, Farsha, for joining our show and showing us. I mean, that like it's crazy to me that such a simple feature can have such a huge impact on productivity. And I know there's a lot happening behind the scenes after that button gets clicked, but it's still pretty cool to see and be on the other end and be like, just click this button and this look at what all was created for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. Jeff, you got anything else for Varsha?
No, Varsha, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, Amazon DataZone, we are trying to, basically remove all of the undifferentiated heavy lifting, right? Including curation aspects, including access management aspects. So we're trying to simplify the process for discovering and data analytics. Yeah.
Well, that's a recurring theme, that undifferentiated heavy lifting, all the hard stuff or time consuming actions that take away from you getting the information out of the data you need. So anything that makes the process better is great. So
all the more fodder for when I'm an old man sitting in my chair being like, we need to do it the hard way.
So Varsha, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for sharing and showing us the new AI generative feature in Amazon DataZone.
Thank you so much, Jeff and Todd. It's been real fun.